Hey YouTube, welcome back to our post-Thanksgiving world where it's just Christmas all the time for months. Anyway, if you want to lesson with me, check the link in the description below. And let's get to talking about today's subject, which came up organically when a friend of mine asked, hey, how many trombones have you owned? And of course, neither of these I do own. Those are not mine. So, thankfully, they are not on this giant list that I put together, and if you want to pause, you can read them all off if you want. My semi-accurate list, he actually had to remind me of like 3 trombones in here that I just totally forgot I ever had. Anyway, let's go over the numbers, shall we? 1 contrabass trombone. I think that's pretty good. I've only owned 1. I've had a couple at the house, but I've only ever owned 1. I've owned 3 medium bore trombones. I've owned 7 small tenor trombones. I've owned 10 large bore trombones. And saddest of all, I've owned 17 bass trombones. The numbers are not completely accurate, like bass trombones especially. I've had a lot of different slides and bells and valve sections and stuff. This is kind of the simplest way that I could put it together and have it make sense. So you could probably inflate that by a little bit or make it smaller. But that's kind of the gist of it. Altogether, what is that? 30 something? I don't know. I can't do mental math that quickly. Anyway, lots of trombones, right? And of course, the obvious question that anybody would ask is why? Why would you own so many horns? There are people that get life through their entire life playing 1 trombone. Well, I'm here to say that, 1, I would love to be one of those people and just not be the way that I am, and there would be a lot cheaper way to live, but also that's kind of boring. So, I have 3 reasons. 3 reasons as to why I do that. 1, it's fun. 2, it's not actually that expensive the way I do it. And 3, I'm really picky. So, let's go through all these reasons. Number 1, it's fun. I really like variety. Honestly, I wish I was one of those people who could play 1 trombone and just be like super amazing at everything that trombone is capable of. For instance, orchestral tenor trombone, or I don't know, something else, jazz tenor trombone, orchestral bass trombone, any one of those things. I think it would be really neat to be a specialist and just have the one instrument that does everything for me in that one field and just be great at it. There's many people out there that do that, and I respect them very, very much. However, I'm not one of those people. I just don't, that doesn't really, like, I've tried to do it for a while on several different things. I just get kind of bored, and I have a lot more fun with variety, doing different things. That's why I play a bunch of doubles, because I honestly get real satisfaction, enjoyment out of playing multiple instruments and multiple styles at a high-ish level. And I really enjoy that. And then that carries across too to having multiple instruments of the same type. So yeah, I could just have 1 bass trombone ever and just be happy with that. Many people do. But I want to try something else. I want to see what the grass on the other side is like. And so I end up switching a lot of the time. And we'll talk about more on that in a second. Also, trombones are cheap. They are the 2nd cheapest brass instrument after trumpets. Trumpets are also ridiculously cheap. Trumpets are cheap because they're small. Not a lot of parts, and they're made in giant volume. It's the most, common brass instrument by far. So there's just tons of trumpets out there. They're really cheap. I mean, used under $1,000 all day. You can find professional level trumpets. And trombones are just a little more expensive because slides are not the easiest thing to make. And it's a little bit more material, and they're made in a little bit less quantity than trumpets are. So prices are altogether just a little bit higher than trumpets, but they're not high. Most other instruments are much more expensive than trombones are, even bass trombones. You might go, wow, $6,200 for a Shires or whatever the price is right now for a brand new Shires bass trombone. It is a lot of money. I'm not going to deny that at all, but in the grand scheme of things, that's like 1/10 the price of like a bassoon, or 100th the price of like a really nice string instrument or something. We've got it pretty good in trombone land. So And I'd pay nothing near that for any of the trombones I've ever bought. They've all been used and quite cheap. Maybe not the best way to go about things, but if I want to play a lot of different things, it's a good way to do it. And the third point is I'm really picky. I've had many instruments that were good at most things, but then they would have one thing that just didn't do it for me. For instance, this 50K3, I've been playing it a lot. It's actually felt better. I made a video about it recently where I was just like, oh my god, it's unplayable almost. And it's not. I've gotten more used to it. I can kind of like get used to the valves and the way they blow, which is very uneven on the face. They sound very even, but it's very uneven on the face. And it sounds great. I'm like, man, this is nice. But I couldn't live with this. I'm too picky. I don't want a horn that's that limiting to my expression on the instrument. I could get used to it. I could put in tons of time to work out all the quirks and stuff. I'd kind of rather not do that. So I'm picky, and I try to get instruments that do things better than, for instance, that one does. Even though I really do enjoy playing it, it makes great sounds, I personally would not have it for my primary instrument because I'm that picky. And that's why I've gone through, like, for large tenors, you might go, like, you've had 42, 42, 42, 42, 42, 42, 42, 8, 7. That's 7 42s, 88H, I've had one of those, and an Edwards. You're like, why would you not just keep the Edwards? Well, it wasn't that good, honestly. It played pretty well. It just kind of made an kind of an odd sound, and it didn't satisfy me. I'm picky enough that I'm like, yeah, it's an Edwards, but there's no reason to keep it just because of a name. And I've had lots of like nice 42s. None of them really tickled my fancy. 88H was actually pretty good, but it didn't tickle my fancy either. So I end up getting a lot of different instruments. Same thing with the bass trombones. I've had a lot of really nice bass trombones, some cool vintage stuff, and none of it was that good. Also, in bass trombone land, I've had a lot of single bass trombones because they're cheap usually, and that, for me, that's a mistake because I have no use for a single bass trombone, and I've run into that how many times here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 times. I've had 5 single basses, and I think all but one of them are actually quite good instruments, but I have no use for it, so I sell it and it goes on. So that's kind of the gist of it. I have a lot of fun going through a lot of instruments that I think a lot of other people do not understand, probably. It's not that expensive. I tend to buy things very cheap, and I sell them for just a little more than I got them for, so I'm not ever just like losing thousands of dollars. And I'm really picky. Even right now with my current lineup, the current instruments that I have, I don't think I would say any of them are a lifetime instrument. I'm not like, I'm going to keep this forever because it's perfect. No, I'm not going to say that. And obviously, I sell a lot of things. Even in my 16M video, you guys were like, can't wait to see this sold in 2 months. I'm not going to say I'm not going to sell it because I really do enjoy it and it plays quite well, but there's probably better things out there, and there's no reason for me to settle. So there you go. That's it. Why have I gone through so many trombones? Those are my reasons, and I'll see you guys next time.